tyre point of view, we don't think lift and coast is necessary.
F1 Manager 23 gives you a lot of tools to help maximise your race performance, and possibly the most important of all of them are your tyres. Being on the right tyre for the right amount of time and also managing those tyres so they last as long as possible is one of the most important parts of this F1 management sim. I plan to run through all areas of tyre management in F1 23 in this video, hopefully giving you the tips and tools you need to really push for those wins during career mode. Now I am going to cover some of the basics such as tyre allocation and how each tyre behaves differently, but I'll leave timestamps in the description below so you can skip past this bit and jump straight to sort of race management and tyre wear and tyre life management if you like. And I'm going to start right at the beginning, and that is with your tyre allocation for each race weekend. During every race you'll be given a bunch of brand new tyres which make up your weekend allowance. This allowance includes all of the compounds from soft to hard for the dry tyres, as well as 4 sets of intermediates and 3 sets of full wet tyres. These are the only tyres you have to use during a whole race weekend. Each tyre compound in F1 offers a different level of grip as well as different tyre wear rates. Softer tyres will provide you with more grip but they'll wear faster, while harder tyres will provide less grip but they'll last the longest. You can use these different characteristics to your advantage throughout different points of a race weekend. The 2 wet tyre compounds also provide different levels of grip, durability and water clearance, and these should only really be used on a wet track and they won't work well at all on a dry circuit. And these include 8 softs, 3 mediums, 2 hards, 5 intermediates and 3 full wet tyres. Although you'll notice that some of the tyres have a lock symbol next to them and can't be chosen during practice sessions. These tyres are reserved for different sessions throughout the weekend. You'll have 1 set of soft tyres which are locked and they get unlocked if you get to the third part of qualifying, and then you have a set of medium and hard tyres. Both of these are locked for the race, so you can only use them during the race itself. And you also have 1 intermediate set of locked tyres. Again, this is for the race only. You may have also noticed that after each practice session, you actually lose access to some of the tyres for future sessions. This is because there's a rule where you need to hand back the most used sets of tyres after each practice session. So after each session during practice, the 2 most worn tyres will be locked away as they're handed back, and these become unusable for the rest of the weekend. This promotes a lot of running on track during practice sessions, so you can really use the tyres to their fullest. Now with the specific rules regarding tyres explained, I now want to actually move on to talking about tyre wear itself and how to best manage your tyres throughout a full race weekend. I'll first look at the tyre wear screen, as this is a really important part of your race strategy. Getting to know this screen will serve you well during a race, and it will help you make decisions on the fly regarding your tyre strategy. Now you'll see here the strategy screen shows you a range of information about your tyres. You'll see different coloured blocks which each represent a different tyre compound, and they also dictate your chosen race strategy. For example, you can see here that I've got a soft, medium, soft strategy along with a one-stop, medium and hard strategy chosen. The blue box in between each tyre show the pit window, and this is a window of around 5 laps or so where you can choose to pit stop earlier or a little bit later than planned depending on your actual tyre wear during a race. Of course, you can always go off strategy and ignore this completely, but I'll touch on that a little bit more later on. The downward slope of each coloured block shows your expected tyre wear, and this shows an estimate of how far each tyre should wear during a race. The white line that follows that is your actual tyre wear. If this is below the coloured block, it means your tyres are wearing faster than expected, but if it's above, it means your tyres are wearing slower than anticipated, which is a good thing. Ideally, you'll always want to aim for the white bar to be trending higher than the coloured bar, but in some scenarios you may want to push harder on a set of tyres, which will make this white bar decrease further. You'll also notice a pale white bar that runs the entire length of the race, and this indicates around 30% of tyre life remaining, and I like to call it the danger zone. You really don't want your tyre wear to dip into this bar. If it does, your drivers will start to lose a lot of grip, and they could even risk a puncture. Now we can look at what actually affects tyre wear during a race. In F1 Manager 23, every driver has a stat for smoothness, which will make some drivers look after their tyres better than others. But outside of this stat, the main contributing factors to tyre wear is how aggressively your driver is driving on track. If they're pushing harder for fast laps or for an overtake, their tyres are going to naturally wear faster. and this is all dictated really by your pace commands. You have access to 5 different pace commands in F1 Manager 23 which you can give to your drivers. These are attack, aggressive, standard, light and conserve. The 2 most aggressive pace commands will decrease your driver's lap time but will also increase their tyre wear. These modes are great for putting in some hot laps before or after a pit stop, or if you're trying to overtake a car ahead of you. However, outside of these scenarios, you should really try to avoid these pace commands. The 2 slower commands, light and conserve, will slow your driver down, but this will in turn help to improve their tyre wear. These commands are great if you've got a big gap to the car behind, or if you're stuck in a train of cars and can't make any forward progress. If you really want to make your tyres last as long as possible, the light and conserve commands will really help with this. Now you also have access to additional fuel usage and ERS usage commands, and these don't actually show a direct correlation to tyre wear in the command screen, however they do still affect your tyre wear. When you give your driver a faster fuel or ERS command, this will increase their speed, and this will also increase tyre temperatures which will affect your tyre wear. If you watch Formula 1 each weekend, you've probably heard drivers and engineers talking about tyre temps. If your tyres are too hot, they'll wear faster as well as providing less grip. But if they're too cold, they won't provide enough grip, which will cause the driver to slide around, and this in turn can lead to increased tyre wear. You can check your tyre temperatures on the car information screen at any point during a race, and I'd recommend checking this periodically, especially if you're asking your driver to push harder. Typically, faster pace commands, faster fuel and ERS commands, as well as following other cars closely will increase your tyre temperatures. But if you're driving in clean air, or if there's water on the track, or if you're running a slower command, then your tyre temperatures will naturally decrease. So now I want to talk about some actual recommendations for tyre usage during a race weekend. And it all starts with the practice sessions. During these sessions, you really only have one goal, and that's to master your car setup, which I actually spoke about in another video on how to get 100% car setup every single time. So I'll leave a card in the top corner for that, and I'll also leave a link in the description below if you want to check that out. But you can also increase your track acclimatization during practice sessions, and this is generally increased by the amount of time you spend on track. So naturally, after 3 practice sessions of running pretty much the entire time, this will be at around 100% automatically, so you don't really need to plan too hard for it. So generally I follow this run plan for practice sessions. During practice 1 I'll use a single set of hard tyres across 2 different runs. Practice 2 I'll use a set of medium and soft tyres for 2 individual runs, and then for practice 3 I'll either use 2 sets of soft tyres or a set of soft and medium tyres, depending on what I want to do during qualifying in the race. Remember, at the end of each of these practice sessions, you do need to hand back 2 sets of tyres. And after the first session, even though you've only used a single set of hard tyres, the game will automatically take away that set of hard tyres as well as an unused set of soft tyres. This approach throughout all practice sessions will leave you with 4 or 5 brand new soft tyres, 1 or 2 brand new mediums, and 1 set of hard tyres for qualifying and the race. Now, your strategy for qualifying in F1 Manager 23 really depends on how far through qualifying you expect to get. If you're in a faster car and you do think you'll make it to Q3, you may want to try and use fewer soft tyres during practice or the first parts of qualifying, so you have more brand new sets of soft tyres for the third part of qualifying. If though you're managing a slower team and you think you may be knocked out during Q1 or even Q2, you could use more soft tyres during practice, saving extra medium tyres for the race. My ideal run plan for quali in a kind of mid-tier team is for Q1 I'll do 2 runs. Both of these will be on brand new soft tyres to make sure that I get through to Q2. During Q2 I'll run again twice. One of them will be on a used set of soft tyres which I used in qualifying 1, and the second run will be on brand new soft tyres, which will be the run which will really try and get us into Q3. And then in Q3 we unlock that extra set of soft tyres, and I'll do 2 runs, again both on brand new soft tyres. Now this approach will use every single set of soft tyres during qualifying, leaving us with no brand new tyres for the race. This means that if you do want to run soft tyres during the race, you'll be running a slightly used set, but it should only take away around a lap or so on your overall stint length. But if you did get knocked out of Q2, you do have the perk of actually having a brand new set of soft tyres, which you would have used in Q3. Instead, you can use it for the race. So when it actually comes to the race itself, here is where the results of your weekend so far really come into play. Depending on where you qualified and which tyres you used during the practice sessions, you'll have some used and some new tyres ready for the race. You'll always have at least one brand new set of mediums and hards for the race, because these are the tyres that have been locked away for practice and qualifying. These are ideal if you want to try a one-stop strategy. You could use both of these tyres, or even use a set of soft tyres thrown in there for a two-stop strategy. Now what I want to do, and I think this is kind of the best way to showcase some examples of a race, is run through some race scenarios, depending on where you're starting, and some scenarios that happen during a race, and kind of give you my advice on what I would do in that scenario, what race strategy I'd run, and how I'd manage tyre wear. And the first scenario that I want to talk about is if you're starting towards the back of the grid in a faster car. So if you had a bad qualifying session in a Ferrari or a Red Bull or a Mercedes, for example. If you qualified out of position, or if you're starting towards the back of the grid, you may know that in a race you need to do a lot of overtaking to make forward progress. Now this scenario can play out in two completely different ways depending on what track you're at. If you're at a faster track like Spa or Silverstone where it's easier to overtake, you could really opt for an aggressive strategy. This could look like a soft, hard, soft approach, doing 2 pit stops. This will give you the pace to overtake the slower cars at both the start and the end of the race. If you want to go really aggressive, you may even opt for a 3-stop strategy, which you could run a soft, a medium, and then a soft and a soft tyre. This approach will ensure you always have a fast car because you'll be on fast tyres, and it will allow you to push throughout the entirety of the race and not really worry about tyre wear too much. Now the other approach is more reserved for tracks which are harder at overtaking, such as Monaco or Hungary. In this scenario, you may want to run a longer first stint on harder tyres. This will let you conserve your fuel and tyres while you're stuck behind slower cars which you just simply can't overtake because the track won't allow it. Then once they pit and you have some clean air in front of you, you can use that tyre life that we've saved up and push harder on your tyres. Then you could utilise softer tyres during the later stages of the race to put in some fast laps with clean air, or to even really try for an overtake. This sort of strategy could be a hard first stint and then a soft and a soft second and third stint, or you could just opt for a one-stop strategy and start on the hard tyres and go onto the medium tyres for the end of the race. Both of these strategies are ideal for clearing slower cars in front of you and will help you get the most out of a race after a bad qualifying session. Now I want to talk about if you are starting towards the front of the grid. Generally, cars at the front end of the grid will often start on soft tyres before switching to a set of hard or medium tyres. A one-stop strategy is often the way to go if you are towards the front of the grid, while sometimes a two-stop strategy can also work well, maybe going soft, medium, soft for example. Tyre wear does differ from track to track, so some tracks will allow a one-stop strategy, while others may actually force you into pitting 2 or 3 times. If you are towards the front of the grid, I'd always recommend following what other cars around you do. This will help you stay within their DRS and not let a gap pull out between you and the cars ahead, which could put you into danger from behind. You can then utilise undercut or overcut strategies to try and overtake cars ahead if you are at a track where overtaking is a bit harder. This involves pitting a lap or 2 earlier or later than the cars around you to gain a time advantage. Now I want to talk about what to do if your tyres are wearing too fast during a race, as this is a very common scenario and will often be what you're facing during a full race. To keep up with other cars and avoid being overtaken from cars behind you, you may have been asking your driver to push harder at the start of a race, which will wear your tyres faster. Unfortunately, unless you're using a really aggressive pit strategy, you won't be able to push for the entire race. You will need to conserve your tyres at some point to make most strategies work. If your tyres are wearing too fast though, there are a few options available to you. The first one is you could try and conserve your tyres. This means using the slower pace modes to actually slow your driver down and make your tyres last a little bit longer. Now this is ideal if you are stuck in traffic or if you've got big gaps of cars behind, but less ideal if you're coming under pressure from the cars behind you. Now, option 2 is to ask your driver to drive in clean air. If you do find yourself stuck behind another driver and you can't overtake, your tyres may start to overheat, and this will negatively affect your tyre wear. You can then instruct your driver to drive in clean air, and this will ask them either to drop back from the car in front a little bit or pull out of their slipstream to cool the car. And this can help reduce tyre temperatures, which ultimately slow down your tyre wear. Now, your third option is to change your pit strategy. This is probably the most extreme of the three options, as you'll be adding another pit stop to your strategy, costing you around 20 to 25 seconds. But what it does do is it allows you to push harder on your tyres, and it can even get you out of traffic. If you're stuck behind a whole heap of cars ahead of you and you can't make any forward progress, consider pitting earlier, changing your strategy, either go onto harder tyres and run longer, or go onto softer tyres and really put in some fast laps so you can jump the cars in front of you during their pit stop. Now, I also want to talk about the positive scenario of if your tyres are wearing slower than expected during a race. If this is the case, you can really use this to your advantage later on during a race. You can push harder on your tyres, which will increase your driver's speed and wear the tyres a little bit faster, or you can adjust your pit strategy and pit later in the race. This could affect your strategy and cause you to actually reduce the amount of pit stops you make, which can gain you around 20-25 seconds. Both of these scenarios are great and both will benefit your race, so if you can conserve tyres early on, you will be rewarded later in the race with faster pace or a better strategy option. Now, I finally want to talk about what to do when you actually pick the new tyres. As I mentioned right at the beginning of this video, there is a pale white bar that runs across the bottom of the tyre wear screen, indicating around 30% of life remaining. If your tyres are about to go into this bar, I would highly recommend pitting. Entering this white bar will cause your driver to start putting in slower and slower lap times due to excess tyre wear and could result in a puncture. I often use this to dictate the lap which I pit on during a race. If my driver is doing well on tyre wear, I'll extend his stint and pit him just before they reach this white bar. You can then change your pit stop strategy by selecting that hammer and spanner icon and then choosing pit options. This will open the pit stop strategy screen where you can choose which tyres to use next and what lap to stop on. And finally, one last area to note is what to do during a safety car. If a safety car comes out, all drivers slow down their pace, and this is the ideal time for a pit stop. During a regular green flag pit stop, you'll lose 20 to 25 seconds depending on the track. During a safety car pit stop, you'll lose much less time due to the cars on track driving at a slower pace. I'd highly recommend choosing to pit if a safety car comes out around your pit window. Even if it comes out 5, 10 or so laps before you're planning to pit, it may still be worth considering. You could pit earlier and lose much less time in the pits and adjust your race strategy to accommodate this earlier pit stop. Now, hopefully this insight into tyre life in F1 Manager 2023 has been helpful, and some of these tips will help you on your journey through career mode in this year's F1 Manager game. Tyre strategy and tyre wear are two of the most important areas of F1 Manager to master, so spend a little time in each screen learning to read and plan your strategy. And I'd highly recommend using the race replay mode to test out different race strategies. If you're enjoying my F1 Manager content, please hit that like button, let me know in the comments below, and even consider subscribing, as I'll be releasing more and more F1 Manager as well as F1 23 videos each day moving forwards. But for now guys, enjoy this video and I'll see you on track.